Hello, we are the Justified Ancients of Ashai. I am Janik Caliph.
And I'm Eroteric.
Today we're starting our episode review of House of the Dragon, starting with Season 2, Episode 1, A Son for a Son. What are some of the major themes that you saw?
I think this episode, for the most part, focused on the Blacks and their reaction to Lucerys' death. I feel like that's what most of the episode is about.
The meat of the episode really starts when we see Rhaenyra at the beach searching for some sign of her kid, just something kind of to make it real. She's obviously going through the stages of grief.
Yeah.
And whether she's in denial like was with her kid, or she's just grieving in her way, trying to find a piece to have something to help her work through her grief. So we see her grieving, and
she's looking for closure.
Yes, she's looking for closure, and ultimately she finds it. And that shows us the funeral scene where everybody is burning pieces of their memories, physical, tangible things.
She was unable to recover his body, but she did find his dragon's wing with oak in it. So that's all they had. Targaryens like to burn. It's their tradition to burn their dead on a funeral pyre. And since they could never find his body, they burned like clothing of his and stuff like that. Which was, it was very sad.
Whereas she's seeking closure and she's grieving. I think that Daemon is seeking revenge. Like, that's how he seems to be grieving. Now, of course, it wasn't his biological son.
I think it was about honor and disrespect for him. For me, I think they're about two different things. I think Rhaenyra is upset because she lost her child. I think Daemon is upset. I mean, he's upset that he lost his stepson, but I think he's more offended by how dare they? You know what I mean? It's a thing of, I don't know, showing that they're vulnerable, and he doesn't come across as someone who ever for 1 second wants to seem vulnerable. Let's put it that way.
I think that's a very good point. I think they also each act in what they believe is their sense of duty, right? In the opening scenes, Cragen Stark says, "Duty is a sacrifice. It eclipses all, even blood." And we see that Daemon feels like he has a duty to seek revenge. He has a duty to even the score, as it were. Whereas Rhaenyra has a duty to put her grief aside and think of the best course of action despite that.
But she does want justice. She does demand to see Aemond. She doesn't say she wants to kill him, though. She just said that she wants Aemond Targaryen. And I think that was to call him to some sort of justice. The queen or the king are the ones who administer the justice. Who knows what she was going to do with them, put him in her dungeon or kill him. I don't know. But by having him brought to her where she can give a judgment based on the crime of killing a little kid who was just an envoy, not a combatant. So it was really a cold-blooded murder, and to pass a sentence on that. And that was her duty to do.
Yeah. And I think that she would be able to, it seems like she would be able to carry that out and do what she needed to do, even if it meant approaching this not as mother, but as a queen.
Yeah.
I think you kind of see those, like the elements of her, how she would be as a queen. She is clearly thinking through things and processing things, and she's not like jumping into war.
Yeah. She's
still moving on with the actions, which are get ready for war, but don't start it.
Yeah. And I think they were trained differently too. It's not so much that they had different parents. It's more like they had different roles, So Viserys became king, and I think that changed his way of doing things. Whereas Daemon can be more rash. It's kind of like how we were talking about in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. You see Baelor very calm, collected, and judicious, and then you see his younger brother Maegor just more hot-headed, more cutthroat, not worrying about political alliances or anything. I feel like it's kind of the same thing here. Rhaenyra has been groomed. She's been heir for 25 years or something like this, and she has been groomed to behave a certain way. And also, she was granted the secret of the Targaryens, which is Aemond's dream about the great evil that was coming from the north that was going to cause an apocalypse. And she was told from a very young age, probably since she was like 15, that was really the duty of the king or queen, was to keep the realm together and strong so that when this great evil came to be, they could have a chance of standing against it. But Daemon was never told this. He probably approaches it as the most important thing is we look strong and we dominate,
And you see that when he wants to, as soon as Rhaenys comes back from her mission supporting the blockade, he demands that she go back out. And she, although is obviously the older and wiser, and says that's just not going to happen. But he's, his blood is hot. He's ready for war. He's ready for action. He's ready for vengeance, which is consistent within the first season. How he, he sought out. He acts first and then thinks later, if he thinks at all. He doesn't seem to be, he doesn't apologize for it. He seems to, make people accept him for how he is or not accept him, and he doesn't care.
Another thing, how Rhaenyra is distinctively showing like her duties is that, despite her grieving and everything, she did take a certain amount of time off, probably to just deal, because she knew she couldn't make great decisions in that moment. And Rhaenys complimented her about that. She was right to recuse herself the last, few weeks or whatever long it was, that she agreed with that stance, because that when she comes back, she can make more level-headed decisions. When she first walked into the chamber, her small council is there and they're all giving her updates that they have secured the Starks and the Eyrie, and they are working on establishing Harrenhal as well.
And I think you see when her one son comes and reports on it, you can see how much his grieving process, her son who's lost a brother.
And you really see that difference between her and Alicent and her kids. That Rhaenys is a very loving mother, and the other one comes across as a little bit more cold. Maybe that can account for maybe how the children will react and behave. Because the mothers are so different. The mothers of the Greens and the mother of the Blacks are so different in character that maybe one lends to, the Greens' children, which would be Aemond, Aegon, and that lot might come across as more fierce and more angry because they grew up in a more cold, unloving environment. Whereas maybe I am Team Black, maybe because her children seem more loving, caring, and down to earth, despite being the heirs the whole time. And I think that's all about training them to lead, because Lucerys is set to be the heir to the Iron Throne, and Lucerys was going to be the heir to the Seastone chair, which was Lord of the Tides. So he was going to, be a lord of a great house. Rhaenyra wants to call him into justice. She wants to call Aemond to get justice for the death of Lucerys. And Daemon interprets that as she wants Aemond assassinated, or possibly any child, any boy, green side, to be assassinated if they can't reach Aemond. He just took it as they caused us a death, we caused them a death. But that is certainly not what Rhaenyra said or was intending. He just took that upon himself to execute that by sneaking into King's Landing and using his connections with the White Worm and the Gold Cloaks to pay off some people to go into the castle and perform the assassination.
So I think we see some similarities between Daemon and Aemon in that they both act impulsively. They both kind of take things upon themselves, and they both often have consequences of their actions that they don't foresee because they're just
doing and not thinking.
Yes, exactly. So Aemon's case, it leads to the death of Lucerys, and then in Aemon's case, it leads to the death of the young boy Jaehaerys. Okay. Again, neither one of those were intended per se.
Yeah.
Because Daemon specifically wanted the one who was responsible.
Yeah.
But he wasn't, he was sloppy in his methods and what he said.
Well, they made it unclear whether or not he ordered them to take whatever son is possible, because it cuts out.
Well, it seems to imply that he says, I never said that. I never said to do that. But
they asked him,
I don't think he had a problem.
They asked him specifically, what do we do if we can't find Aemond? And so they either were going against his order, because it turns out, we didn't say this yet, but they could not find Aemond. He was not in his quarters at the time. So since Aemond wasn't in his quarter, they started searching the castle to kind of look for Aemond. But the first person they found was the queen with her young children. And so this is also very interesting, because one of the assassins that Daemon found was a rat catcher for the castle. And so he had a very specific knowledge of the basement and all the secret passageways where the rats hang out. The thing that was interesting about that is that, Helaena has dragon dreams. Helaena said she told her husband, King Aegon, that she was afraid, and he thought she was talking about he thought she was talking about maybe the upcoming. She corrected him and said, "Oh no, I fear the rats." And then they all looked at her like she was crazy, and all her handmaids and everything. And that that just shows that dragon dreams, sometimes they're not specific and you have to interpret them. And I guess she found out what it meant to be afraid of the rats the hard way.
Okay. I want to kind of get into a little bit the assassination because there's a couple things. First, as we pointed out, it seemed quite unnecessary that Cheese kicked the dog. It was his dog. It kicked the dog. But what it kind of was establishing was that this guy's a bad dude. I mean, more than just he's going to get the information, tell him where to go. Like, it's like maybe this isn't his first assassination or murder or bad thing, that he has been involved in.
It didn't take him long to agree to it. I don't think he had a conscience about it. I think he was like, okay.
Yeah. And I think that's the only purpose I can see for him showing him kicking that dog. When they get down to the assassination and they can't find Eamon, they see that there are two children there, the twins. One's a boy, one's a girl. And instead of doing the obvious thing, which is just verify which one is the boy that they need to go after, she makes her point it out. Now, in the books, she's actually choosing which child is this and which child dies. I think that this is kind of like a little bit lighter version of that, but clearly there's there's a choice involved, and it's making her do something that unnecessarily. And
in the books, does she choose the same person?
Yeah.
Okay.
The result is the same, but it shows the character that he would be so cruel as to do that. What we're dealing with here is very unsavory characters, and I actually really like her character. She seems simple, and people just kind of pass her off as like
and really sweet.
Sweet but light. A lightweight in the brains departments, and then of course where she walks in on Alicent in a very illicit position, and it's you really feel for her that she's caught up in all these actions and stuff going back and forth because of all the characters. There's never anything that she does that's not that's deserving of any of this.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say the same thing about her husband and brother Aegon, because I don't think that he wanted any of this. He didn't even want the crown. He was told that his dad changed his mind at the last minute. But even then, Aegon was like, I don't want it. I don't want it. And he was hiding and trying to run away from them, kicking and screaming that he didn't want it. And they made him do it. And he was basically crying up into the very moment. There was a scene where he asked his mom, and this was at the end of last season, I believe. But still, I think it's pertinent to their characters that Aegon was like, Mom, do you even love me? Because I think he knew that doing this might cause some repercussions, and he might even wind up dead. And that's why he's like, Mom, do you even care about me? I think she's doing some of these things because it's her duty, because she thinks that's what the king said. She's not really so much fearing for the lives of her children. I think she's kind of like, it's going over her head. She's sitting there the whole time saying, I can make my son king and have no consequences, and Rhaenyra will just bend the knee and will hold hands and sing Kumbaya, my lord. Like that's Alicent's thing is, well, if I say the king said that and we just crown you, everything's going to be okay. We'll have peace. And so even when Lucerys got murdered by Aemon, she was still like, it doesn't have to come to violence or war or, and I don't think she was really grasping how dangerous, how much in danger her children would be. I think she thought they'd be more in danger if they didn't steal the crown because of her dad, like putting that in her head for years and years. But anyway.
Yeah. One of the points I was making is, especially if you compare like Helena to her husband, Aegon. So like even Aegon didn't want anything, but the difference is he's not a good character, right? He's not a good guy. Mm-hmm. He goes to those pits. He even has a daughter in those, mm-hmm. those child pits, fighting pits. He's not good, but where she, is very sweet and innocent, even, even if she's not all there or whatever, but there doesn't seem to be malice in her, and she has absolute love for her kids. And it's almost like that's, that's what gets taken advantage of, is because she's like that. Because if she was more strong or a fighter or something like that, maybe some situation could have turned out differently.
Yeah. Well, I definitely agree with that she's very sweet and nice and hasn't harmed anyone. But I think my point about putting Aegon in with there is to talk about how he didn't want to do it because he knew the consequences and dangers of it, where she doesn't, so in that way, he was thinking of his family, he was thinking total destruction. And do you really want to do this? And so to me, that shows at least some heart. See, Helena might be sweet because there's nothing there and she's just la la la, simple. And all she wants to do is knit and, talk about bugs and play with her kids. And she's not worldly, let's say that much. And so when you have a low key kind of personality, you're not going to be causing wars because you're not interested in that game at all. Whereas, I think Aegon was showing, restraint because he could have ordered the death of Rhaenyra and all of her family as soon as he stole the crown, because certainly that's what most people wanted to do. Mm-hmm. They wanted them to do it. And Alicent said to him, no matter what, they're going to push you to do this, and please don't do this. And he didn't. So that's what I'm saying. To me, there's a little bit more something there when you know the consequences of your actions and you're choosing a good path. Now, that doesn't mean he made horrific and did horrific things that were other things that he did. But when it comes to the situation specifically that we're talking about, I also don't know if he changed who he was the moment he got a crown. Probably not. We'll see what his personality is, but he does seem more, he seems into it, and they showed him on the throne. He just seemed like, oh, you lost your sheep. I'll give you your sheep back. Oh, you want more money? I'll pay you more money. And he didn't seem like an arrogant prick. He seemed like he really wanted to be nice to the people and do nice things. So maybe before he was like, oh, I'm just like a nobody. He had the middle royal child syndrome, where he's acting out and he doesn't really have a purpose in life. He's just floating around. But when he gets crowned king, maybe now he's straightened up. I guess we'll see how that rolls for the rest of the season. It could be just a temporary thing. It's fun to play nice for a few weeks on that high of being king and having all the people cheer your presence, and that it will wear off and he will go back to being really bad.
I don't think he's really bad, but I don't think he also is protecting his family or did that at all. I think he just was selfish and just didn't want to be king. He had no desire to do that. Didn't know what he wants to do, but he sure as heck knows he doesn't want to be king.
Well, I mean, he could whore and do drugs as king. That wasn't going to stop him from doing that. So what was he talking about when he said, do you even love me, Mom? But it's not important to put here.
He was hiding because he did not want to be king. And his brother was like, yeah, but it wasn't because he was trying to save anybody but himself.
But it certainly wasn't because I can't whore around.
No, he just didn't want anything to do with it. It was not the life he wanted. His brother clearly wanted it, but he didn't.
Yeah.
And yes, and once it was, I was like, oh, this is cool, and I can hang out and be like a frat boy, and have parties and stuff, and
everybody loves me, and they have to do what I say, and
and I think that there's you see him as king, it's interesting between him and his wife, Helena, where she is a simple-minded person. As it is, he's a very simple-minded king. Like True. He's not aware of consequences or you can't do that. And it's like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Why not?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, he's definitely more simple on the simple-minded side.
Yeah, he's not strategic at all. So, but he does seem singular-minded in that he doesn't want to be weak. That seems to be one of his driving forces as king. And we will see that next time. Right. Until then, watch and like our videos, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.